Recording started.
What's up, everybody? My name is Brandon McLean with Sports Talker Brandon on this Tuesday evening. Today we're doing something different. So this is going to be a recurring thing, most likely for the future. I have my friend here, Chris. This is going to be the Anime Dojo segment where we're going to go through a couple of animes we've been watching, anime Hell's Paradise, and the first episode that will get released officially, technically after the hour-long episode that's new for Demon Slayer season 3, which is the Swordsmith Village arc. Before we get into that, Chris, I want to ask you: have there been any other animes you've been watching outside of these two that you want to talk about real quick?
So, if I'm just giving a shout out to a few of the ones that I've been watching, especially from this new spring season of anime, I had to give a shout out to Dead Mount Death Play. It's really coming on. The first episode was really strong. It kind of gave you a presence of what's going on. And here, I guess you could say it kind of gives a nice reverse, you could say, where it seems like a guy was summoned into our world from the magical world, but he's somehow still able to use magic. So, it has a nice little difference to it that I'm liking so far. And just to touch on the others that I've been watching, I got a cheat skill in another world that's made me unrivaled in the real world. That was actually pretty interesting as well. Go ahead, Brenda.
I've heard about that one. I've heard about both of them. The second one you mentioned, I have heard about it, and it looks pretty interesting. I might hop into that one eventually. That's on my list from this spring. That's really caught my eye.
Yeah, because it takes a unique look as the main character seems to be living in both the fantasy and the real world.
Correct.
So it has an interesting take. And then, of course, just a quick shout out to some other ones. Dr. Stone, New World. In Another World with My Smartphone, season 2. Season 1 was also pretty good.
Okay.
And yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
For me, I've been finishing up My Hero Academia. I'm in season 6. I'm about at episode 120, 21, somewhere in there. Been getting into that. I want to get into the magical ward one you mentioned. I'm wanting to get into Dr. Stone. I've never seen Dr. Stone, but I also know Dr. Stone is very good anime. So that's one I could just start watching from the backlog, just kind of get into. I'm eventually going to get back into Overlord because I'm in season 5 of that show, or season 4 of that show. So get back into that.
I will say, as far as what was the first one you mentioned? Right before you went into man.
Oh, My Hero Academia.
No, you started My Hero Academia. You know, I know you're not on season 6, but you finna catch up to it.
Yes, I am. My God.
Which one did you say after that?
Oh, Overlord. Overlord
is.
That's the one about the open world, like MMO, not MMO. Well, MMO RPG where the guy gets stuck into the world playing the game because he doesn't want to.
And he's like this. Yeah, and then he's like this skeleton guy. That is a good one.
Yes, that's
okay. A good one. Which one did you say after
that? The one you mentioned, the one about the cheat code for the cheat for the magical powers. That's the other one I'm gonna get into.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you know me, I can easily get off and talking to just about any other anime, almost any other anime. I haven't seen it all, but yeah, let's. I can jump right into it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, never mind. I remember what I was gonna say. I'm sorry. I remember what I was gonna say.
Go right ahead.
You said you were going to start watching Dr. Stone.
Yes.
That was the one I was thinking. So I will say, if you're going to like Dr. Stone, you have to be somewhat into science. specifically chemistry.
Okay.
And there's a little bit of mechanical engineering in there, but and if you want to just get started, like chemistry.
Okay. Yeah, but that's not gonna be too hard because I think for me, uh, the like My Hero Academia stuff has been kind of like talking about their quirks and and the science behind them and how their quirks work. So it kind of I already kind of had that understanding of like, oh, Dark Stone has the same kind of styling to it. So I'm fully ready for that kind of like process.
All right, well then it sounds like you're going to enjoy it then.
Yes, I am. But let's get into the first topic at hand. We're going to be talking about Hell's Paradise, the first 3 episodes that came out over the past 3 weeks. I'll start off with this question. When you first started watching Hell's Paradise, what did you think about of
You mean like how
a weird way to
it first
open,
came out?
but it felt like because it felt like it felt like a like Samurai Jack style show, but more modern to me.
If you ask me, it seemed like the beginning of Dante's Inferno.
Okay.
You know how it kind of you kind of know something is messed up, but you really have no clue about how it's messed up. In what way is it messed up? Like that's the kind of vibe I got from it. At least until the end of the episode, anyway.
I think the thing is like we meet, and I'm not gonna spoil too much because it's still most people probably have seen it because it's actually I pulled up Anime Corner who I follow on Twitter. It's this right now it's out of week 2 last week. It's 4th on the anime charts for people watching, so it's done pretty well. I think the big thing behind it is like the story grips you because you want to see where it goes, but at the same time it kind of just jumps you into the action really quickly. It's like
it jumps you into the action. I mean, okay. Firstly, let's be honest. For the first like 15, 20 minutes of it, you probably need to have a strong stomach because it gets pretty gory.
Yes, it does.
But yeah, it isn't until like the last 5 to 10 minutes of it do you really just see how violent it's going to be.
Yes. I also like the main character, which is his name is Hollow. I think is what they call him in the show. And then the main samurai that takes him to the place where he's going to be shipped off to the island to where they have to find this thing. But it's funny when they first interact, she gives him the ultimatum. Basically, I kill you, or you come with me and you get a pardon for your life. And it was interesting because he already knew his fate. He was willing to die, basically. But I think
it's a little bit further than that.
It's a little bit.
If you ask me, like it's a little bit further only because in the beginning of the first episode, he was trying to die.
Oh yes, he was trying
to. That if he would die.
Yes.
And when it came to the end of the episode, it is until he had the realization that he could actually die.
He could actually die.
He actually started like, yeah.
But the one thing I also kind of noticed when I first started watching the episode was, what do you think of the art? Because the art style is very colorful, very strong, but also the contrast is so like quick and like the first episode was very muted colors, brown, blacks, gray, and then as we get to the end of the first episode, the colors kind of open up. Did you like that way the art style was done?
I love the art style in it, and as we look into episode 2 and 3, it only gets better.
Yes,
and I would like to see how the art style is going to influence the martial arts style that they decide to take on, especially when they come across the enemy like they did in episode 3.
Yes. So episode 2, going to episode 2, because episode 1 was basically just like your introduction to the characters, kind of getting used to what he's about, all that. Episode 2 kind of starts that story now of the lady samurai comes to him. The clan he talks about the clan he used to work for and what he had to do for them, because he basically was like a hired hand, and he was like, and only thing he wanted to do, he wants to live with his wife and have a normal life, but he knows he can't do that. So then the
I don't
guy
think
he wanted,
he knew that he couldn't know,
that's true.
because you learned in the first season that he actually loved his wife.
Yes, he did.
And even if I remember correctly, there was a brief moment where they made it look like he killed his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But in actuality, we learned no, he just sent her away.
Correct. He sent her away.
So I think,
and he cared for her. So that's the one thing I did like, that it gave him a human side to him as much as possible.
and that's what you really start to see in season 3. Like, he's human. He's just
yes.
really, really messed up.
Yes. So then we get to the end, like the middle of episode 2. We meet the samurai lady. She talks about the backstory. Then he shows off what he can do with a sword and kind of his fighting thing, and she's kind of impressed. But also, the guy that wants him to just die, get killed, is like, he don't deserve a pardon. Why is he getting this opportunity? And then she just straight up like doesn't murder him, but he like basically almost makes him like scared out of his boots for a second, and just kind of like, okay, y'all can go. Take him.
Ooh, he did have a particular attitude about that part, didn't he?
Yeah, he was like, okay, fine. He's gonna die anyway, probably, but okay. Then I think it's weird. It's weird how the end of season 2, the end of episode 2 starts, is where the end of episode 2 is basically they're getting to the place where they have all these criminals. Then episode 3 pretty much starts with them in that same place talking to like this head like government guy, and how here's the pardon, here's what you need to do for us. We just need this one thing from the island, and you find it and bring it back to us. We'll pardon all your crimes. But it's funny, I love this part because, and what do you think of it? When the criminals are all there, they're all covered up in their face mask and everything, and a lot of them are like, are you serious? It's a death wish. And they're also like, why do you give us opportunity? There's no point. I love that sense of like dread, because they know what's going on, but they also like, why would we do this for you?
But I mean, so in that sense, and what you just said, it seems like it's a mix between psychopaths and like, have you seen Baki?
Mm-hmm. I've seen Baki.
Okay. No, better yet, right now, in the instance of what you were just saying, it's like a mix of a psychopath and John Wick.
Yes. Because they know these people are dangerous, but they also know they're willing to do anything to get their freedom. But at the same time, the people who are dangerous are like, we don't think this is why would we do this for you? Like, it doesn't. It's basically just like a unwinnable situation. But then I just love the fact that that all that happens after that scene is like, so they talk about it, then the guy goes, only so many you can go. So then out of nowhere, I forget what the character does it. just starts attacking a couple of the other criminals, and you're like, well, the guy sitting in the chair goes, and then in the front goes, well, that was fast. That was the point. So then they just have an all-out brawl. But the whole time that's happening with all the other characters, Hall is just standing there. Hollow is just standing there watching this all happen. He's not even moving. And it's just like, he doesn't want to murder. He doesn't have a reason to murder. But then that one character comes up and goes, oh, I'm going to come after you. What do you think about that in that scene where they're just like, all this stuff is going on around him. He's just standing there stoically and trying not to get involved.
Okay, in my instance, it reminds me of a movie I saw called Unleashed with Jet Li. Have you ever seen that?
I've heard of the movie, never seen it though. Heard of the movie.
So in that movie, they describe how a dog fights. Because in that movie, Jet Li is pretty much treated like a dog. So they say a dog, especially like a pit bull or Rottweiler, they will attack one enemy until the enemy is quote unquote dead, and they will ignore almost any other attacker that it has on its own body.
Okay.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
Yes, it does. Because that's basically what they did with this. They kind of gave it that, like, everybody was these like ravenous, like you say, dogs, but they just at the same time they're also like, but you have the couple people, like one or two that are calmer because they're like, well, I'm not going to try to fight y'all. I don't need to. I'm going to do what I have to do to survive. But then at the end, you see Hollow take on that dude and pretty much just destroy him to the point that he's dead. And you're just like, this man's power is insane. And then you see the samurai lady. She's kind of watching like, what the world? Who is this dude? And nobody really knows nothing about him. So then we get to so the interesting part of that. So that's the end of episode 2. Then we get into episode 3. Episode 3 starts off. They're on the ship, getting ready to go to this island, and I love the little back and forth and the fact that she's asking about her past, what he does, what his past, and everything. But the one thing I thought was interesting, they said you have to be bound, so you're bound by your hands, so you can't fight. And
that's
so
the idea until they prove wrong.
Prove you wrong. So then I like the little like going to the island, getting there, everything. They get off the island, and they kind of cut because you don't see them actually like dock on the island really. The next thing we see is like them on the island walking around. In that scene, particularly when they're on the island officially and walking around, what do you think of the like the colors and the lighting? Because this episode is really colorful. Plant life, vegetation, like everything. What do you think about this episode? Because this episode gets the colors and it pops out so much.
Man, it was a night and day. You come from, when you look at the difference between episode 1 and episode 3, that they do a really good job at episode 1 of showcasing their darkness and the difference in darkness and light compared to when they were holding the torch and it was dark in the cave, blah blah blah. I'm sure people who spend enough money on a TV for 4K or 8K, they can really see the difference. But furthermore, when you go into episode 3 and you look at all the visual stunning effects and the details they put into the flowers and everything, even the flowers on the corpses are as creepy as they are. You still have to admire the beauty that they did, how they did it.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And I think the thing that really kind of made this, like you say, a 9-day episode is the fact that you go from something, like you say, episode 1, something dark, dingy, one little fire, like torch, to something so colorful and bright in episode 3, and it's the contrast so quickly. It's not even like, it takes a 3-episode arc, but it makes sense because where we're headed is supposed to be an island. It's supposed to be more colorful, more bombastic, has that vegetation. So then they're walking. The big thing, they're walking around. They have the guy Hollow says that he has a map, one clue, and that's it. So then he's like, and as he's talking about this, she's thinking in the back of her head, I don't know much about this dude. I don't know what's he about. I need to act fast if something goes down. So then, randomly, he breaks out of his chains. He has a sword. Doesn't know where we don't know where he got the sword from. And then he's about to attack her.
Well, we knew how easy it was for him to quote
Oh,
unquote
break
break
out the
out
chain.
of
Yeah,
his little rope.
yeah, the little rope thing, which I thought was kind of funny. I'm like, you gave him a little rope thing. You know, these guys are like natural born like criminals. It's like, oh well, yeah, that's not gonna hold them.
Right.
But I love we're about to have this fight, and they're about to throw down, but then you might, I don't know what you thought about this. You see that big dude just walk up on them with that other samurai, and you're like, why is he? And she goes, why is he unbound? And the guy goes, well, there's no point in holding them. As long as they don't hurt us, they can hurt each other. And then I love the scene where he literally goes, I'm gonna destroy you with all these weapons. And you just see him pull out a whole thing of weapons from his back. You're like, oh wow. What do you think about just that interaction between the two samurai, plus the fact that we meet the other one of the other criminals, and he just literally just pulls out a bunch of weapons and is about to take out Hollow.
Yep. Makes sense. I mean, so it's like they're giving you instead of giving you crumbs per episode, they actually give you like hors d'oeuvres per episode. Like you know what's going to come, but it's enough information in there to say, wow, all that is really happening. But of course, you have to be open and aware to understand what you're looking at too.
Correct.
You know, there's so many things to examine as you watch it.
Yes. But then I love this next scene because so he's about to get ready to fight. Hollow is. He's about to get ready to fight, but the samurai girl goes, "Nope, you need to bind your hands again." He's like, "Why? Why am I banding my hands? Like, there's no point. I'm gonna." And then the dude takes this giant spiky mallet and goes right on top of his head, and the mallet just breaks. And the guy goes, "What? How's that? But what? Okay." Then pulls something else, breaks, and he's gonna break. That breaks, and it's just like every time he tried something, everything kept breaking. And then finally, Hall literally kicks one of the. He had the spear between his arm, and he takes the spear, reverses the pressure, and kicks it right back into the dude's stomach. And I'm like, that was all fluid in
That
one
sir
fluid
is what
motion.
you call judo.
Yes, it is, and one fluid motion. And he didn't have.
But then no, seriously though, that's what the style is called, judo.
Yeah, judo, and it was also like he was like, oh, he's dead. He's just dead. And the guy's like laying there like out of it, but then you're like, he's laughing. He's not dead. He's just like he had that stuff on his armor that protected him. And then eventually,
right,
we don't see the rest of the battle, but then we see all these spears.
You know, man, that was something that I was like, was that battle really just that gory to where y'all couldn't show it on TV?
That's what I thought. It was going to be that bad that you couldn't show it, but I was like, it might have been a thing of like, they're probably showing the passage of time. So they're like, the passage of time happened where it was just so long a battle, it would took forever to show it. Which either way go, it was too gory. I'd rather see a little bit more of it, or if it's too long because of the passage of time, let the passage of time happen first. So you showed us the passage of time, he's out, you know. But then I love the fact as you're showing the passage of time. Go ahead.
So either time, budget, or it would cop out.
It was political reason. We had the same problem with Demon Slayer, where this season, the current season we're on right now, was in that same problem of like they can't go too bloody. or too gory, so they're trying to balance it out. And it took a while for Demon Slayer to come out. I think this was the same issue where they don't want to go too gory because they know they're going to have to do some things later on that season, maybe, with a lot more gory. So they're trying to balance out that goriness as much as they can.
But if they are taking that page out of Demon Slayer's book, then I had to admit they're doing a pretty good job of doing that, because Demon Slayer didn't get gory till they really started fighting. Like,
yes,
it started violent, but it didn't get gory till later on.
Yes, yeah. I think that's going to be a thing. I think they're going to ramp up the action, but I think they're going to keep the blood or the gore down a little bit, where it's not as like, you'll see some of it, but then other times you'll see nothing. But then after the battle's over, I love this little detail. So the battle's over, he's still moving. But then the samurai that was supposed to be his like handler goes, and just like I don't know if he outright like finishes the blow to where he's dead now, or he just like ended up because he's already out of it anyway. I thought that was like a small touch because I'm like, oh, you didn't really like this dude either. Like, you didn't like him either. Okay, that's fair. What'd you think after that little point? Because they have that little dialogue about, he's like, I'm headed home now. There's no point for this anymore, because either way it goes, either they all gonna die or one's coming back with the item. But there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, when they're always gonna say it's nothing they can do about it when it's a lot they're gonna do about it. So
yes.
It's an anime thing. I'm not gonna say it's what they call plot armor, but it's a plot something.
Yeah, because the way he said it, he was like, "Oh, I'm just one samurai. There's nothing really, much we can do when they are going to fight each other." I'm like, "Well, you're a samurai. Hold on a second. Y'all can stop them. Y'all can end their life if they have to be ended." So I don't know. I think that was kind of like a weird way to put, like, he's not really into doing this. He was just doing it because he had to, which I appreciate, but I also think it's, like you say, plot armor, cop out kind of thing. But then I love the ending of this, because we get something kind of weird at the end of this. So he talks about all that, but he also shows us other handlers and people on this journey as well. And they're just like, as he's talking about everybody, you see one other handler get killed, but he kills the lady that was trying to seduce him by like making out with him, which is kind of weird. The big dude, one of the other bigger dudes, gets destroyed because of one of the other bigger dudes destroys the samurai guy that's been helping the girl. I thought that was really interesting. But then the last one was the most interesting one, where it was the one of the other guys and this other handler were together, and they were walking through the forest and see all these bugs. What you think about the fact that we see all this stuff happen, but then the last one we see is them two trying to work together to keep each other alive, but all these bugs and creatures come out and start attacking, and they're like, this island's more than it seems. This island's not what it's supposed to be. We gotta hold out for a bit. I just love the way they amped up the scariness of the island. What do you think about that?
So like now after that, that's when it takes like a page out of a movie called I think what it's called, the Condemned.
Yes, I
don't know if you've ever heard of that. So in that movie, and that's what it started to look like to me. It started like that movie, and in that movie, kind of like a rat pit. Like, you're gonna put all the rats in a cage and see who's gonna come out on top. But obviously, if you put you put like a possum in there instead of a rat, well, now you got a whole different story.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I I'm I'm intrigued to keep watching. I'm gonna be interested to see where they go. I, do I think it's the strongest anime from the spring season? No. But if it's something that gives you good action and a decent story, absolutely. I'm gonna assume you agree with this. I think if it keeps building up the way it's putting up right now, it's gonna be a good way of keeping your story progressing overall.
Right.
Um,
Because that's going to make it or break it at this point.
yes, the story's gonna make it
You
break
already have
it.
the action is there and the gore is there. Just now, how do you plan to bring that together with the story?
One other thing I want to talk about before we head into Demon Slayer is the fact that I also really appreciate the fact that they aren't shying away from one thing I thought they would have shied away from is like the samurai lady has demons, he has demons, and like she's like maybe he can help me out with mine, I can help out with his, and we can get out of this together. So you kind of see the seeds, the small seeds of like working together to get out of this and get through it, but it's not fully there yet. Like they've planted the seed, but it's not started growing. What do you think about that? Because I think that was the one thing I really noticed through episode 2 and into episode 3 until she kind of like was almost kill him because he was a
Well,
betrayer.
that to me, that's the comparison of psychopaths that I'm getting from it.
Yes, because they both have issues and they have to deal with them. Even though,
Exactly, and they had the similar issues.
yes,
They're like, if you can't control such and such emotional impulses, is going to kill you, which is her problem. But his problem is finding his humanity.
yes, he doesn't have no humanity and he wants that. He wants his humanity back.
So
I,
not only is it a partnership, but they're forcing to learn from each other.
yes, absolutely. Um, I'm gonna ask you this because before, what do you want to see in the next episode? Because I think they're gonna start right where that ending episode left off, where the guy and them are fighting those bugs. What do you think you would want to see story wise from next episode?
So I would like to see how they're going to find where their destination. And I would also like them to do the traditional anime from there on and introduce another character, like a
Yes.
partnership character, not just
Yeah, because a lot of the characters that were in episode 3, a lot of the ones that were kind of cool looking, pretty much the ones that get cool looking get killed off pretty quickly because they're just fodder. But they show a couple different ones in that second episode, so I'm wondering if we're gonna get one or two that come along for the journey, just as like more support things later on, or is it just gonna be one of the things where it's just gonna be him and her. I'm like you, I do want to see another character come to the forefront just to have the help. I'm kind of keeping this interesting, but we'll see what happens. But let's get into the other thing we want to talk about: Demon Slayer Sword Village arc episode 2. I will say this episode was a training arc, so bear with that because it is we hadn't had a training arc all the entertainment district really. We only had one again in the first season, and then we didn't really have one Mugen Train. So this episode kicks off with I think one of the most interesting things. I like the fact I like the fact it kicks off right where we left off. Literally just like we're still behind the bushes and looking at this doll. And it's like we're just a fly on the wall at that point. So Tundra comes out of the bushes, talks to the kid. The Miss Hashira um, wants the key for the battle doll or mechanical doll. Um, my first question is, what do you think of the Miss Hashira? because when we started talking, he was kind of mellow, but also like super serious, and really hadn't like his personality was kind of like, eh. But against Tanjiro, I think that works because Tanjiro's so upbeat, so like friendly, helpful, all that kind of stuff. So, what do you think of that dynamic first?
Between Tanjiro and the Love Hashira, right?
No, Tanjiro and the Miss Hashira.
Wait, the other Hashira, the one with
Yes,
the blue hair.
correct. The other one.
So, okay. Andrew doesn't really get very angry unless it's another demon for doing demonic things, right?
Correct. Correct.
This Hashira is going to be the only one that he gets pissed off, but he still respects.
Correct.
Everything about this Hashira is going to piss him off. It's the fact that I feel like he's going to learn from him too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So their dynamic is going to be, I hate you, but I can't stand you because you also get a whole bunch of, you can also do these amazing things.
Uh-huh. So then it was interesting. So Tanjiro stands up to the Hashira, but as he's standing up to the Hashira, um, then Miss Hashira pretty much like slaps him and like knocks him down to knock him out pretty much. But before that, we see one of the other people from the swordsmith village behind a tree just listening to the whole conversation. And I thought this was interesting because it's one of the swordsmiths, one of the people who make swords. I think it's actually Tanjiro's swordsmith at this point, or another one like Tanjiro's swordsmith. So then he gets knocked down. You hear a conversation between the little kid and the other swordsmith. The swordsmith is going to pick up Tanjiro, take him back to the village. And I love the little detail. As Tanjiro starts waking up, you see the other swordsmith just run away. And the kid's like, why are you running? Why are you running? Why are you leaving me? So I love that. I love that they kind of give you that like the other swordsmith was kind of like frightened by him, not scared by him, not really wanting, was gonna help, but not could. If he woke up, I was not gonna help. I'm just gonna leave. So what do you think about that whole sequence? Because I love when Chanda wakes up. Chanda's like, I'm ready to fight him. Where is he? Where is he? kind of like a boss.
I mean, he's like that until he realizes, oh, this dude is
ready to fight. Yeah. He's like, he's strong. I can't fight him. So that's the first couple of minutes of the episode. From what I talked about there, what do you think about that?
Wait, so ask your question one more time, so I make sure I get it right.
So after that first couple of minutes, what do you think about the episode at that point?
You just broke up because I didn't hear words you said.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, so after that first couple minutes of the episode, what do you think about the episode as a whole so far?
The episode as a whole so far.
So like we talked that first couple episodes, the first couple minutes. So that first couple minutes up through the point Tanjiro wakes back up from the Hashira taking him out.
Okay, so everything up to that point. Okay, so I don't think. First of all, I know Tanjiro he's got this, the Superman complex. Or I'm going to stand up for any kind of injustice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, you learn why it's called the Superman thing because, you can still get hurt. but I mean, okay, you remember? Crap, that's not that part yet. It's really hard to put it into words from up to that point because you really don't get too much information besides the kind of relationship Tanjiro is going to have with the Hashira.
Correct. And
You can, yeah. Because I mean, if you ask me, everything from that scene, from the beginning of episode 2 up to that scene, is basically him doing just that.
correct. So yeah, I'm bringing up the part because it's interesting because they give you all this setup to learn about the Miss Hashira, but we don't get it really. We don't get his name right away. We know who he is because we've seen him from the previous season 1. But then on top of that, like a lot of that other stuff's just like catching us up from what we left off. So it didn't really give us a lot of information right away. Outside the little kid, I think the little kid kind of gives us some more information about like the doll and stuff within the talk with the Hashira. But yeah, like you say, right after that, Chandra wakes up. The kid asks him if he's okay. He says yes, and then they have they are gonna walk back to find the Miss Hashira to go see about the doll. Well, as they're going to see about the doll, you see the Miss Hashira walk up on them with the doll, one of the doll's hands, and one of the swords in his hand. I love this little detail about the Miss Hashira, which is actually kind of funny, is that he was like, I'm going to take the sword, we throw my other one out, and just tosses his old sword to Tanjiro. Like Tanjiro's some like servant or something. I was like, well, that's kind of rude. And then you just see the little kid run off, and it's like, I think that's really like you get the Miss Hashira's more of his what he's about. He just wants to get stronger, gets better, but he doesn't really care about anybody else.
But we've seen Tanjiro be nicer to kids, and he's a big brother. He knows how to handle kids.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. What do you think about the scene what do you think about when the Hashira has the arm of the battle bot, and then he just throws Tanjiro's sword, his old sword to Tanjiro? What do you think about that like dynamic?
You said, wait a minute, let me make sure I heard you right. Mm-hmm. You're asking what do I think of the relationship between who?
So what do you think about how the Miss Hashira treats Tanjiro when he hands him his old sword and just tells him to toss it out, and he just takes the one from the battle bot? Because I think that's kind of like telling him he thinks he's on a higher totem pole than Tanjiro, but he's not. He still doesn't respect Tanjiro that much.
Well, I mean, Tanjiro isn't a Hashira.
That's true.
And then we haven't learned how or if it takes anything special to become a Hashira.
That's also true.
So with that being said, it's like Tanjiro might not be on his level. And not to mention the dude he was only practicing with that doll for maybe about 30 minutes to an hour at best.
Uh-huh.
So again, it's like his skill level is obviously that of what you would expect it to be for Hashira.
Oh yeah.
The question is, does respect have anything to do with becoming a Hashira?
Okay. All right then. Yeah. Then we see the little kid find the doll, or he goes and finds the doll, but then as they're about to go to find the doll, the kid he ran off to go, I think, cry or something. And the scene me and you both I thought was interesting is, so he's crying, and Tanjiro, one arm, literally just leaps up and holds the branch. I'm just like, this man, it's just like leaping up one-handed, holding the branch, doesn't really care. and just talking to this kid, but then you
You
get more.
know, and honestly, if I saw that in today's times, I'd be like, bruh,
Yes, that's the thing.
untied, you know, because ain't no way you just gonna be hanging. And I do
No,
mean literally hanging by a bridge with one arm.
because their branch can
Like, come
support your
on
weight.
now. Like,
Yeah, their branch wouldn't be able to
well,
support
it
your weight.
definitely could. Well, depending on how
How
heavy
strong the
he is and how
yeah,
big that branch is.
how big the
Yeah.
branch was. Um, so then we have a little conversation with the little kid and the boy and Tandro, and the kid explains that the BattleBot's been around for almost 3,000 or 300 years, and it's part of my family. Nobody.
Right. So, but then again, the question in that is where and why is that in there? Is that sword in there?
Correct. Correct. So
You know,
that
because if you understand this is a sword division, and just like that kid was saying, you know, well, in this village you either do swords or you make robots. Now, there's got to be. I think they could be insinuating that there's
yes.
probably more to that.
Yeah, there's probably more to that. I don't know if they're gonna explain it in the next episode or not, but there's probably more to like who built the robot, all that kind of stuff, and everything. Um, I will say one thing. I do love the fact that the little boy mentions, or Tanner mentions, I had this dream about the dude, and the little boy mentions that dream is probably a memory, a shared memory from someone else in your family. And that actually was like,
Right.
wow. The little boy's like, I'd be like, how the little boy would know that? But then you're like, oh, he's been around this village. He probably knows about the history of like the swordsmith, and all that. So it it makes sense for the most part. I also
Oh yeah.
appreciate I also do appreciate too that the first thing they go do they go to the battle bot, check it. It is missing the arm, and Tanjiro goes, "Can you fix it? Or can it be turned on?" And though they try the key and it doesn't work, and then the little boy's like, "Do you want to train with it?" And Tanjiro's like, "Yeah," but at the same time, Tanjiro's like, "I don't." He doesn't know what he's about to get into because the little boy is like ruthless. Boys, as a trainer. So when we get back to the doll, getting the doll back up and running, the talk. What do you think about when they first start training with the doll? What do you think about the motion of the doll? I thought the motion, the choreography of how the doll's moving against Tandro was so cool and so interesting because it's different than fighting a normal human, but it's also different than training like with weightlifting weights or like running or doing something else. You have another live opponent, so it's a different style of training to make Tandro stronger. What do you think about that whole like training sequence?
It was definitely interesting to see because I mean, you're fighting with a with a robot.
Robot, yeah, basically.
And but the other thing I think is mentioned, but it was what the kid said. You know, when Tanjiro asked him why does it have six arms, the kid said well, that's the only way that they could recreate that demon's movements.
And
I was like, dang.
I think it does. Doesn't he say? Doesn't the little kid also say it's like there's 150 something different things
He
it can
said it was
do?
105 different moves. Yeah, 105 different moves.
Yeah, so that's even
Yeah.
more insane. Like you're trying to recreate all those movements. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean, so again, it kind of raises the question of what era are y'all in?
yeah,
But he does say that nobody knows how to make them anymore now.
correct. Nobody's ever make them. As far as the one who made this one, so he kind of says it's something I can be able to fix. So then they go through this whole training montage, and the little kid's like just training him hard. He's like, I want you to get you stronger so you can beat the Miss Hashira. And Tanjiro goes, I am not beating up that dude. I'll talk to him. I'm not gonna hurt him. The kid just wanted to fight. I was like, okay, I don't blame the kid, but yeah, no, he's not doing that. Uh, but then
you know they're gonna keep it somewhat civil.
so yeah, somewhat civil. But then I love the other half where then the kid's training, but the kid's like, if you don't get it, you can't eat food or water until you get hit on this thing. And so this is the next scene that I love. So the next thing I love is the fact like, so we're still in the training section, and I don't know what you thought about that. I thought it was cute. And Tanjiro tries to get hit on the thing, but literally falls out and is just passed out. And then they show this like little cartoon bridge with all these little angels, and he's in the afterlife, and they're like, okay, that's kind of cute. So he was about to pass out and die. It's like,
Yeah.
I was like, okay. I I think what they're doing with the art style and like this, like that little like you switch the art style a little bit to make a little cartoony thing. I think that was really cool. I think that was really just a fun way to have show that Tanjiro's been working so hard, but he can't hit the stall at all. Um,
You're right.
I the only other thing I would say that kind of got kind of lost a little bit. They didn't do the light patch at the time. They actually show you the whole training montage to a point, except for one thing when they're in the rain. I think at one point they don't show that part because they showed us three different ones. So I think that passion, like they showed us a lot of it, but they didn't show us one part. That was really cool. That was really good. Show us like he does train harder. And did you notice that when Tanjiro was training with the doll, that his arms were a lot bigger? Like his muscles and stuff had gotten stronger. I love that little detail. That's a detail I think that's really just kind of like, oh, they've shown that he got stronger.
Like they physically showed his uniform getting tighter around him. Yeah. And
yes.
So I will say, I would like to get your thoughts on this one though. So we learned that we don't know for sure, unless you've read the manga, and I don't know, you might spoil it, I don't know. But that demon, yay or nay to that being Tanjiro's, that after the new information that we've gotten.
Let's see. So you're talking Kokushibo.
Okay.
Rank 1.
Right. So he topped out. That's also the same dummy that they're using to train with. So that begs the question: is he literally training to kill his own father? Are they finna do a Star Wars?
I don't know, but it's also an interesting plot thing. But do you remember when we see the dream when Tanjiro first wakes up in episode 1? And the dream was of Shibuyoshi, which is a descendant of Tanjiro, like his great-great-grandfather. And what's the dude? The Hashira that was sitting next to him on that bench. I forget the dude's name.
Yeah, but that Hashira looks a lot like that demon too.
Yes, he does. It would be more interesting. I think it's more like the demon and the Hashira are brothers. I think they have a connection, but I think Tanjiro has no connection with. I think Tanjiro has a connection only because his grandfather met the Hashira, so he's learning about that through his grandfather and what the Hashira told him from that dream. I mean, it would be interesting if they went down that route, but I don't know how you explain that.
I don't know, man. Just, my brain firing at 1,000,000 miles a minute,
Yeah. No, I get you. I agree with you. I think it's more or less, for me, I think it's more or less both the Hashira and the demon are brothers. One went to the good side, one went to the bad side. But how they got there, we don't know. And then Tanjiro is just the guy in the middle that's learned all this stuff from his grandfather who met the Hashira. that saved their family. And
Right.
that saved their family. He kept because he even says in that dream, he goes, I think the grandfather goes, I'm going to teach my generation sun breathing or the dance of or the flame dance basically. So I'm going to teach that to the rest of my generations. His kids, their kids, their. So I think that's more that building that history.
Right.
It's going to be interesting because I don't. They have to give us more information about the doll, at least, because I don't think the little kid says it's the Hashira or the former like swordsman, and we built it in his honor, but we didn't know much about him. So that's gonna be like, well, we want to hear more about this, this man. But on the flip side, I think you want to learn about what's going on between both sides. Yeah.
Well, see, so when it comes to the head of the clans, both of them, both the Hashiras and the demons, I mean, when you look at those heads, yeah, I kind of say that they're probably twins or something. One dabbled in chemistry and went too far one day or something like that.
Yeah.
No. So I mean, that story could still go a lot of different ways.
Yeah, it's not.
I think it's still really early to tell anything about that.
And that's the thing, anyway, one way, because they've still left it pretty vague.
Very
So
vague.
very vague. So then Tundra finally gets a hit on this doll, almost hurts his spine in the process of doing that. Literally, like almost almost twist his spine in half to do that, but he gets it. Then he goes and he tells the kid, "Give me rice balls, give me tea, right now. Give me the best stuff because I need it."
I mean, sure, because he already been starved them and pretty
was
much
getting
hazed them. I mean, so now that I got it right, you feed me what you supposed to have been feeding me, because the Tanjiro is still a guest, remember?
Yes, he is. He's still a guest. So then he's eating and drinking, and the little boy goes, "You know what? Go. You want to fight more? I'll go ahead. If you destroy it, don't worry." So then we finally boys realization.
He wants him to be ahead of that.
Like the boy's like, "I don't kiss now. I want to get stronger. Yeah, I want you to get stronger, Tundra. I want you to get better." Because he feels like I've helped you. I've tried to help you. Let's see what you do. Um, so then we have the last little bit of training, and Tandra's having struggles trying to do a final blow to this thing. But the little boy says, "You're hesitating. Why are you hesitating?" And then Tandra's finally like, I don't know if you can notice this, but you see like he could smell the different movements at the end when he's last training with him. So he smells the right hand, or not smells, but like he sees the essence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like any other boxer or fighter do. You know, after watching your opponent for a few minutes or a few seconds, you can kind of see what they finna do, what they their bodies kind of give them away.
Correct.
You know, just like when did you ever watch Black Clover?
I did. I have watched Black Clover.
So you remember how the captain was trying to explain Ki to Asta?
Correct. Yes.
Same thing. This is the same thing. You see what I'm saying? Like, everybody gotta learn something different to up their skills, and it's not always the same thing.
Yeah, I think that's the point they were trying to get at. Like he's finally learned what the bot can do after so many times. So then he sees everything. So he he finally figured out what he needs to do. I love the little detail too, where they like he pulls the sword back, cuts his own hair on accident, and then he gets finally one shot on the stall. Then he falls to the ground, almost breaks his tailbone doing that. Um, and then the little boy checks on him, sees he okay, and then you see the doll start crumbling. When you started to see the doll start crumbling, what you started thinking? Because I was like,
Oh, he destroyed
yeah,
it.
he literally like
He really just destroyed it.
messed it up. But then you see the doll kind of get destroyed and broken up, and you just see something pop out of the neck, and you're like, what? Why's that popped out the neck? And the little boy and Tandra are just looking at it like, that's a sword. That's a super old sword. It's been in that doll for 300 years. Okay. All right then. Let's
So what's up with the sword? You know, they kind of left the characters and the audience all asking the same question.
Yeah, they're like, what's with the sword? Why is it there? Whose is it? Because right before that, Chandra's like, thank you for letting me borrow the sword. I didn't mean to break it. And he's like, I don't care about that. Yeah, what do you think about leaving us on that cliffhanger? Do you think they just, like they did with
Hold up
episode?
real quick. Pause.
Yeah.
My apologies. Please continue.
No worries. What do you think of? What do you think of where it left us on that cliffhanger? Because it did the same thing like they did in episode 1, where it left us on a cliffhanger of us like in the bushes, seeing about the doll the first time around, and now we're left on a cliffhanger with Tandra and the little boy just staring at the doll broken with the sword popped out of it. I hope they just start back right there and go. We need to figure out. We need to see about the sword and take it to one of them and like get it fixed, or what we need to do.
But yeah, like that's the first thing they're gonna do is go get it examined.
Yes,
That's the first thing.
we do.
You know, and then you might hope we get a little bit of history on it.
Yes, we need the history
we
on
want
it.
to know this kind of legendary sword, like who wielded it, and all that kind of stuff. So then we can be like, yeah, ain't nobody just right now.
Yes. I think that's going to be the thing. Get the history, build up, talk about where the sword came from, who's the doll actually of. We might actually get the answer now fully. Before we end the podcast, I'm going to ask you this. As a training episode, what do you think of it? Because the first, in season 1 training episodes, a couple different ones, but there were other things embedded in the training episode, so you didn't have a lot of like downtime. I thought this training episode was actually pretty decent, but also I like the fact that you introduced the Miss Hashira. You introduced a lot of different characters, so it kind of gave you something else, some other things to talk about. But overall, what do you think of this as a training episode in general?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I hope it's a training. I hope they don't make it go past more than maybe 4 episodes. Because I wanted a training episode, not a whole training arc. Like, I still wanted to be some kind of sustenance.
Yeah, I'm kind of worried about. Once he gets his new sword, is he going to have to train a little bit more to use it and get used to it, one of those things? Or is it just going to be like, he'll know how to use it from the get-go?
Well, we all know that swords are made differently by their users.
Correct.
This is why I'm hoping we get some kind of history on this sword.
But see, it's funny. We still need to go find what's his name because he's missing in the village. His sword maker, the one that wants to like destroy him. So.
Okay, but did you notice he and the kid had the same mask?
Yes, he did.
So could that be his son? Well, no, because the kid said he was adopted, didn't he?
Yeah, the kid says his parents passed and he was adopted. I mean, it could be. It could be a thing where he adopted him. That could be something.
That's what I was about to say. Maybe that could be his adopted dad or something.
Adopted family. Yeah, I'm like you. I do think we don't need this training arc go longer than maybe 2 episodes at the minimum. If you're gonna do more than 2, maybe 3. 3 at the max. I don't think you go past 3. This doesn't make sense. Like the training episode, you don't need a longer 4 arc trainings episode.
Now, I will ask you this: do you think Zetsu and Inosuke are doing any type of training?
We get the tease of Zenitsu at that mission in the snow. But then we also get I think we get the thing on Inosuke is on a mission before we leave, but they don't actually say he's on a mission. But yes, I think they're all training to get better. I do think it's kind of weird that this is talking about.
Well, we know they were taking other missions.
Yeah, we do know they're taking other missions.
We know they were taking other missions.
But yes, I do think they're training to get better because I think it's going to be one of the things they all get better separately and then they come back together in whatever the next arc is, the next arc.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't know if we'll get it. I want to get more with Zenitsu, maybe like they say what Zenitsu's doing in dialogue, or show us. Maybe show us like he's fighting a demon or he's on a mission, help us. Not give us like his full thing, but like give us like a glimpse outside the clip we saw in the first episode. Just give us like 1 or 2 other glimpses of it. Just because, hey, cool.
Yeah, like where he's like, I wonder what they're doing, then he shows them doing something stupid.
Yeah, doing something stupid. So that would just be kind of fun. You don't take away from anything. Yeah. But overall, what would you give the grade for this episode? For the episode in general, as just a training episode.
I give it an A-. I give it an A-.
Explain.
Because, first of all, visually it was still stunning.
Yes. Oh yeah. Visually,
you got to see your character work. You got some sweat. They were really good. They were really good with the anatomical stuff. If he was hurt, he wasn't moving this part of his body because X, Y, and Z. I enjoy watching and hearing stuff like that. So yeah. And then on top of that, the cliffhanger was not too heavy, but it did it perfect. It didn't leave a whole lot of questions to be asked.
No, it did not. And I would actually agree with you on that. The cliffhanger didn't give you a lot of questions that needed to be asked. It kind of left you in that state of like, oh, we're gonna get our answers. That's most likely. It's just gonna be like how they're gonna give us the answers.
The good thing that they have been doing, Demon Slayer, is that they answer all of their cliffhangers while giving you more questions.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because that's the best way of like, oh, we're gonna give you an answer, but we're also gonna give you all these other questions you could think about throughout the next episode.
Right.
To make it like more balanced. I would have to go with you on the grade though. I would go with the same grade, A-. Colors are stunning. The art is still beautiful. I think the characters work. I hope the little boy comes back in some way, shape, or form in the arc. Because I think he was really fun and just kind of interesting to learn about. We're guaranteed to see both Hofstra again. So yeah, I think me and you both are looking forward to the next episode. I mean that's gonna be our.
Oh yeah.
I think we're both looking forward to this next episode of this and next episode of Hell's Paradise because we're both like just intrigued because they just left us with things to think
Yes,
about.
Right.
But that will be the end of this episode of the Anime Dojo. We'll be back sometime next week to do the next episode of Demon Slayer, episode 3, and Hell's Paradise, episode 4, because they came out a little bit earlier. But I do thank you for listening. Hope you did enjoy. I thank you, Chris, for joining me this evening. Hope you enjoyed this little talk. I do appreciate you helping me out with this. But I will be back on Saturday to do my normal SmackDown review and everything else like normal. And then we'll be back sometime maybe Monday or Tuesday to do another episode of the Anime Dojo. I thank you for listening. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you're here for next time. See you.